Hello, 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 friends, and welcome to the very first video that is involved with our Pinterest inspiration to closet manifestation. And today I am doing a very fun upcycle project that is going to take you no time at all, but will leave you with a really dope looking pair of stylish jeans. Now listen, I'm not gonna lie, I have had this pair of jeans pinned to my Pinterest board for quite some time, and I could not wait to jump on it, which is why for, of course, the first week of Pinterest inspiration to closet manifestation, I was like, I'm committing to doing at least one upcycle and two brand new pieces. This is actually one of my brand new pieces. Let me go ahead and button her up a little bit tighter because this top, so good, but I'll give you more details about that in another video. Anyway, so today we're going ahead and we're going to be using this here closet or Pinterest inspiration right here to create this here, which is what I'm wearing right now. And you guys, when I tell you that I don't know why I've been putting this off for so long, I literally have no idea why this has taken me so long to do. But let's talk about the materials as well as what it is that we're about to embark on, okay? So first up, I decided to use a pair of jeans that I had thrifted. Now in Atlanta, we have a store that's called Park Avenue Thrift Outlet. And on days that of the week that you can go, everything is either like 75 cents, 25 cents, 50 cents, $1.25, $1.50. It goes up to $2.25. But that's like, yeah, that's when they put the fresh of the fresh stuff out. So I went on $1.25 day and I bought a bunch of denim. I didn't buy a bunch of denim because I was like, oh my gosh, I want to wear all of these jeans. But I was like, you know what? This is a really great way to get denim so that I can make some really cool denim quilts because I follow a woman, her name is Sandra, and she does all of these beautiful denim quilts. But then I was also like, let's just buy them in our size or close to our size so that in the event that we want to upcycle or we want to turn them into something else, we have that at our like fingertips as well. Now, full story, or rather full disclosure, when I first bought these jeans, they did not fit. And since I've lost weight, they do fit now. So I was like, this is perfect. So the pants that I started out with were $1.25. So that's a $1.25 investment in here. Now I bought the fabric that I did end up using to make this project. I got 2 yards of it from Hobby Lobby and I got it when they were doing their 40% off sale. So it ended up being about $4 per yard and I only used a quarter yard. So when I tell you that the math for this project is mathing really well, yeah, so you can make some designer things on a budget, okay? So again, using those materials, the only other things that you'll need in order to complete this project, of course, are going to be your fabric shears. Okay, so full disclosure, I use like 2 pins throughout the entire project because I simply could not do it. As well as I did use a denim needle as well as denim thread because I wanted to make sure that this was as secure as possible because there's no point in saving things from going into like, you know, the garbage in order to essentially create new garbage. That is not what I wanted. I wanted my stitches to be nice and reinforced and for them to last. So with that, let's go ahead and get started on our project. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do in order to navigate our upcycle is I'm going to put these on and I'm going to go ahead and mark how high or rather how low I want my cutout to be. So that way it can fit comfortably as well as any kind of other edits that I need to make to these jeans. So we're going to go ahead and try these on and see exactly where I want to do it. I've got my chalk right here that I'm going to be using to mark it. And this is just the basic chalk. I got this one specifically from Madame So. But there's other places that you can get it, obviously. So that is first. So I'm going to go ahead and try these on and show you exactly what that looks like. Okay, so I really love the fit of these jeans. I thrifted these jeans. They have ever so slight amount of stretch to them, like really slight. But I did notice that I have a lot of gapping back here. So I'm also going to go ahead and make my waistband so it fits a little bit better at the same time that we do this upcycle. Now, for me, I feel like I'll be most comfortable with the cutout being along this line. So kind of like where my fingertips are, which for me is like the middle of my thigh, almost like. So I'm just going ahead and marking this with this blue, which I probably should use a different color. So let me grab that because you guys, I can't see. Let's see, what other colors do we have? Spoiler alert. I decided not to look for a different color. Because you know what, in truth, I can actually see it pretty well. And so we can see the blue line right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. We're going to go ahead and I am going to reinforce that line and measure it just to make sure that it's the same on both sides. Okay, so I can see that my line is right here. We're going to be cutting out towards the middle of the pant. So we need to make sure that this is lined up properly. I will be using my fabric shears to go ahead and make the cut. But I also want to make sure that I am below this crotch line as well. So what I'm going to do, even though I measured my fingertip measurement right here, I'm going to go ahead and lower it, knowing now that I can see where that, now that I can kind of see exactly where I really would feel better about it being, because I do want to make sure that it is below that crotch line. So I'm going to just go ahead, grab my ruler, and then we're going to just go ahead and measure. So this is kind of like where it's measuring right now, which isn't a problem because we're not going to be cutting into the seam. I'm going to be about an inch away from the seam, but I do want to make sure that it is a little bit lower. So we're going to go to this point right here. And again, we are not going to be cutting. I feel like it's fine to just use this, even though it didn't show up very hard, very, very hard. But look at that. Now we can see it. Like, I feel like this line is going to be much better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do my cut here. And I'm going to go ahead and plan that out as well with my ruler as well as my chalk, just so that we can give even. Now, I do want it to have more denim on the outer side of the thigh. So I'm going to bring this in. And this is going to be that point of reference for us. And we're going to be cutting through our bottom hem. So that feels really good right there. And then again, I do not want to cut through this here internal seam or this inside seam here. So I am going to just go ahead, and I do actually feel like I want it to be curved. So let's start from the bottom here. And I want it to follow the lines of the leg. Oops. So I feel really good about that line. And then again, we're going to take it, we're going to follow the line of the leg and take it to here. And now this is actually going to go ahead and be my pattern piece for the other leg as well. So let's go ahead and cut this out as well. So again, we're going to start from the bottom. Important to note that I'm only cutting through one layer of fabric here. And I do want my fabric to fray. So I'm going to be effectively top stitching the mesh that I'm using in place. Guys, I'm so excited about this. Okay. And then make sure I can go across here. There we go. Okay, so we've got that first leg cut. I'm going to do the same thing on the other leg now. And so you can see how I'm using this as the pattern piece. Like I can see the distance between here. If you're like, you are someone who likes a more exact or a more precise measurement, you can definitely take your ruler and see that this is exactly 1 inch measurement from where I cut to this first seam line. So as I line this up, it's easy for me to go ahead and make sure that that is in the same spot. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a clip or two to hold this in place down here. Make sure that doesn't shift like that. And then I will go ahead and I want to be very careful about how I pin because I don't necessarily want to pin through both of the layers. So I'm carefully pinning just through that top layer because I only want to hold it in place there because I don't want, as I'm cutting, for there to be an issue because of how I had it pinned. So we're going to just go ahead and cut this out as well. Again, making sure that we're only going through 1 layer. And then I will be saving these leg cutouts as well. Because who knows what we might use some denim scraps for. Okay, so now in my planning video, I know that I pulled out this here fabric and said I was going to use this, which I don't know, maybe I still might. But let's see the other option that I was thinking about using, which is these pearls, which I feel like is really cute. Adds a little bit of dimension to the denim, makes it a little, I don't know, a little fancy. And I have a whole lot of this fabric too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it up to the denim. And honestly, you know, we're going to go ahead with the pearl. Why? Because the pearl was the original inspiration. And yeah, so we're going to go for this pearl. So again, because I need 2 of these, right? I need 2 of the pieces. So I'm going to just fold it in half to make cutting it that much easier for me. And again, I'm going to be using the fabric that we cut off of the pattern, again, as my pattern piece. Okay. So let's go ahead and lay this out nice and flat. I love this project because one, I paid $1.25 for these jeans that I'm upcycling. And I think I paid $3 for this piece of fabric because it was on sale. So this little upcycle is not very expensive, especially because if my plus size behind can find some jeans for $1.25, I thrifted them at Park Avenue Thrift, then anyone can do it. Now, even though we're using this as our pattern piece, and again, I'm going to start from the very bottom. I'm not going to be hemming this mesh at all because I don't need to. Now, even though we are using the pre-existing pant leg kind of as our pattern, we are going to add a little bit more, not necessarily a seam allowance, but yes, a seam allowance. And we're going to be adding probably about 1/2 inch on each side. And in my opinion, it's okay if it's not exactly 1/2 inch. And the reason why I say that is because one, we've got all of these extra pearls that are out here. And so as I'm cutting, I'm trying to make sure I'm mindful of that. And also, it's okay if this insert is a little bit bigger than the actual thigh, because it'll just add a little bit more space, and that's fine. Okay, so now that we've cut out those sides, let's go ahead and get this top area. There we go. And again, it's a very rough cut for this. Now, what I am going to do is pay special attention to where these pearls are that are outside of the actual pant leg. And I'm going to go ahead and remove all of those because I don't want to have pearls popping off around me. And the easiest way to just go ahead and remove them, you can just use a small scissor, you can use a seam ripper, but I highly recommend doing this if you do plan on using like a sequin fabric or anything along those lines, because no one feels like dealing with this. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting these off. And then we're going to hop on, well, we're going to pin this in place, and then we're going to hop on the machine and put it all together. Now, of course, I am going to make sure that I am being mindful that I do need to also open up my belt loop area so that I can go ahead and also make sure that I am able to go ahead and, whoop, that one's kind of stuck on there. Make that waistband a little bit smaller so that it prevents that gapping that is currently happening. So I'm going to do this and then we'll come back. Okay, so now that we've got those pearls done that way, we're going to go ahead and line this up with our denim, which, it looks so good. It looks so good already. Can you guys see the vision that I'm seeing right here? So now it's time for us to go ahead and do my least favorite thing in the world, which is pinning. Now, I am normally anti-pin, judge someone else, and it's namely just because I'm just not the best at it. Like, I really try hard to be an excellent pinner, and I'm just not. So this is essentially how I want it to be. And yes, I want the raw edges, and even though they are not frayed just yet, I am going to come back in and probably do some manual fraying. But this is exactly how I want this to look. So this looks so picture perfect to me. So now we're just going to go ahead and pin this together. I don't think I'm going to pin it that way though, because, oh gosh, I hate pinning so much. Now, I normally would not pin, but I'm pinning, one, because this is for video, and two, because I do really want this to be held together. And like, I'm feeling up underneath here where there's some other, you know, little pearls and stuff like that. So this pinning process is kind of helping a little bit with that. We're not going to put too many pins up in this bitch though. I mean, up in here. Okay, here we go. There we go. All right, that's all the pins I can do. Y'all do not come for me for pinning. That's all I can say. Let's hop on over to the machine. I already have my machine threaded with denim thread, so that's what I'm going to be using. And I already have my needle in there, so let's head on over to my machine. Okay, so I'm going to briefly talk about how my machine is set up right now. So I am using the Foot 1D, which is offering a differential feed. I do have my my tension a little bit looser. It's at 5.25. The reason being is because I'm sewing denim. My machine automatically sets this up, which I'm appreciative for. I'm going to be using a basic stitch, but I am going to go ahead and make my stitch length a little bit longer. So I'm going to take it out to 3.5. Again, because when you're sewing with denim, you don't necessarily need those super tight stitches. So that is how I have this machine set up. Again, I am also using a denim thread as well as a denim needle, which is down here. So important to note that you will still need to be using a denim needle or a universal needle should be okay. And I do highly recommend that if you do even have the longer board for your machine, this one right here, that makes that space longer, keep it off. The reason why is because we're going to be hitting some tight places, and you don't want to not be able to make it make your machine fit the leg of the pant. Yes, that is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So one of the other reasons why I'm kind of happy that I did not pin all the way around is because I've already undone the other side, because I don't necessarily want not that I don't want it to be seen, obviously, but because it's making it that much easier for me to start this to go ahead and actually get this started with sewing. So again, make sure that you are mindful that you're catching the inside fabric. And if you feel insecure about that, then by all means, make sure that you have gone ahead and flipped your garment right side out, so that way you can sew from the inside. I do feel confident about my seam allowance that I've left. I'm actually only using probably a 1/4 inch. So having the full 1/2 inch is making it a little bit easier for me. And you can always readjust. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and move my foot over a little bit to make it a little bit easier for me. And remember, there's no right way to do this. Let's go ahead and cut that. This is so cool. Wow, this is so good. Just gonna for that. Oops. Okay, so I've got both of my new panels in, and now I am going to fray these areas. I've started to do this, a little bit of the fraying. And so what I'm doing is I'm just finding just kind of pieces of the denim that had already started to kind of come apart. And I'm literally just pulling. That's it. Because I really want that white fray action to happen, because I feel like that looks really cool aesthetically. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Y'all say a prayer for my floor. Now here's something to note, that you can't fray past your stitch line. So you guys see how that's fraying and it's stopping. It's not going to fray past the stitch line that I put in there. So I'm just going to have to pull or trim it once I get to that stitch line. But look at this juxtaposition of how rough that looks up against the delicacy of this mesh. It's so perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and finish fraying it. So again, in order to fray, and if this is the aesthetic that you would really like as well, we're just finding loose pieces and literally just pulling. Okay. So we're going to finish that up before I go ahead and I'll show how I make my adjustments to my waistbands for denim. I did do a quick tutorial of this on Instagram as well. That is still up, so I will also link to that in the caption as well. But let's finish fraying first. Okay, so the fraying is done. Now we're going to go ahead and I'm going to share just my quick hack on how I make my pants fit or reduce the gap in the back. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just find my side pieces, because what I'm going to in essence do is go in near the closest belt loop so that I can hide my stitch lines. So I'm going to go behind this belt loop here, and this is the quick fix. This is not like if you were like, oh, I want this shit to be perfect. This is not going to be that. Okay, this is going to be a quick fix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and seam rip, but I'm going to just put a straight hole only through the inner layer of the jean. So you guys can see what this looks like. As you can see right here, I went ahead and I just made my hole just like that. I'm going to do the exact same thing behind this here one as well. And again, the reason why I'm doing this close to the belt loops is just so that it's easier for me to hide the stitch line, because I am going to be stitching in a little bit of elastic. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some 1-inch elastic and I'm going to thread it through. The way that I decide how long I want my elastic is you can either measure your lower back and kind of see what feels right, or you can just put the elastic and have it face your actual piece of denim and shorten it by a couple of inches. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so we've got the piece of denim here again, and I've already put my holes in on either side right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this nice big spool of elastic. This is what the measurement would look like if it lined up 1-to-1. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract about this much. So I'm going to thread through this amount. The reason why I'm so aggressively taking off so much is because that gapping back there was really big and I did not like how that looked. So now that we have our elastic, I'm going to just go ahead and thread that through. My favorite little tool to use to do this that makes it so super easy is going to be this. Okay, so I don't even know the official name, but it's this thing right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just thread this through all the way through. And this is why I like this, because it just makes it so much easier to just go ahead and thread this elastic through. Now I will say that you will need to make sure that you're ready, because I had to thread through a lot, y'all. I had to thread through a lot. So be ready with your pin, because you will need to pin this in place. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and stick my elastic on. It's kind of like a little fishing pole. So you gotta just like, it's got the little hook. And so now it's gonna just thread my elastic through once we get in through that first hole. And so look at how easy that is. Now I am going slower because I do want to make sure that as I'm threading through, I don't thread it through so fast that I end up like with all of the elastic and I don't end up having this little piece kind of stick out, so that I can essentially stitch that into place. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my pin here because I need for this to stay exactly where it is. Like, boo, don't move. Okay, so sticking my pin in there. And then as you can see here, the other side is already threaded. The other beautiful thing about using this here tool is that you don't have to worry about whether or not you threaded it through and now your elastic is on the right side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to simply stitch a line here as well as on this other side, and then we're going to try it on. Okay, now what do these kids say? she ate and did, because look at how cute this came out. Also, we have no more gapping in the back, courtesy of that really quick fix that we did. And you guys, and of course I'm going to put up my Pinterest inspiration next to me. How did she do? Did she do it? Did she leave any crumbs? Because I'm not seeing any. Okay, anyway, so I hope that you all have enjoyed this tutorial. We're gonna go ahead and bring this nice and close for our conclusion so that everyone can get a final goodbye, okay? All right, friends, so that is it for today's video. I hope that you watched this and saved it, you commented, you shared it, and that you use it to inspire your next make. I do hope that you guys do have like some really dope thrift stores wherever it is that you are, so that they enabled you to go ahead and do this thrift flip. Now, you can of course start with brand new jeans, but what's the point in starting with brand new when there's so many things that are out there that you can just buy pre-loved and then love on them some more. That is what I subscribe to, so don't be surprised when you hear me say that again. But anyway, this was a really fun upcycle for me, and I look forward to doing more of these with you all in the future. If there is something that you want to see from me, make sure that you drop that in the comments as well as if you are interested in this type of video, make sure that you have gone ahead and subscribed. Until next time, happy sewing.